Hi! As you could probably already tell from the title of this video, this is not gonna be a hurdy-gurdy related video. I've got this probably over 100-year-old instrument, the zither. It has all its original strings on it, and I'm gonna restring it and take you along for the journey. And then as I'm doing like a montage of me changing all the strings, I'm gonna do a voiceover and tell you a little bit more about this instrument. So let's get started. But since I'm using my phone to record, I put a little tuning program on my computer and I'm gonna use my microphone to determine the pitch. So let's get started. Voiceover time! So I got this instrument in September 2019, so 2 years ago at this point. I found it on a second-hand site. Someone in my city was offering it for, I think it was €30. And me not even knowing about the existence of zithers before seeing this ad, thought, yeah, that's what I want to spend my money on. I literally didn't know these instruments existed before I saw the ad. I just saw the picture and I thought it was so pretty, and I know that's so foolish to just buy an instrument you know nothing about and then pray to whatever you believe in that it's gonna work, but that's what I did. I mean, I would have been fine if it didn't work, if I couldn't make it to sound right, but I did really want to try and make it sound good, so here we are. Anyway, I picked it up and the person selling it to me told me they had had it for a couple of decades and it had always been a decorative item in their home, so that kind of made me a bit more worried about it being playable. And I'm not sure if I remember this correctly because it was 2 years ago at this point, but I think that they told me they got it at a flea market, which is another red flag. So, I mean, I really have no idea what the history of this instrument is before this person that I bought it from. Like I said, I really wanted to see if I could make this instrument playable, but I very quickly realized that the strings were just way too old to be tuned. I spent hours trying to get these strings into tune. They just wouldn't hold any sort of tune. They would go out of tune immediately. I broke a couple of strings just trying to tune them. They were very old, very brittle. They really couldn't handle the pressure of being in tune. And I'll insert a little video. This is the best I was able to make it sound at the time, 2 years ago when I first got it. And that's, yeah, like I said, after breaking 2 strings already while trying to tune it. But here's the video. So the reason it was impossible to tune this instrument is because it had all its original strings. I know this for a fact because in construction they had painted right over the screws that held like this little piece of wood that protected the ends of the chord strings. So I guess technically maybe some of the melody strings could have been replaced because you could access those, but you could not access the chord strings. So those were all original strings because the screws that held together like the little piece of wood that made you be able to access those strings was like painted right over in the painting process of this instrument. The amount of grief that little bit of paint caused me is just the combination of old screws and the fact that they were glued stuck by the paint made them an absolute pain to remove. This is honestly the reason why it took me so long to get around to restringing. I had gotten one screw out, but the other one was just like stuck. And at that point, I had also completely ruined the screw head. I just put the instrument away for a year. I I just couldn't deal with it. In the end, my mom was able to pry the screws out with a pair of pliers and a lot of patience, and that's when I was able to order the new strings, because I knew I was able to restring them now. I do also just want to say like a little bit of a thank you to the company I got the strings from, because they were absolutely amazing. I have no experience with strings whatsoever. When it comes to the hurdy-gurdy, I kind of just like order whatever anyone else recommends. So this was like going from an instrument that has 6 strings and 4 little sympathetic strings to an instrument that has 48 strings that all have to be in tune and all has to be done whatever. That was kind of what's the word? Intimidating. But I found this company, and they have string sets for conventional setups of zithers, but this instrument is not that. So they had to put together a set specifically for my zither. I measured all of the lengths of what all the strings were supposed to be. I gave them, luckily they're on my instrument itself, there's a card that says what the notes are supposed to be. So also whenever I'm tuning it, I can just look at the card, see how it's supposed to be tuned, which helps so much. And so they put together a set specifically, it's like special for my instrument. Like that in and of itself was already very valuable to me, because I wouldn't have known even where to start with that. But the thing that really impressed me is that they took such care packaging it. They first sorted them by chords, which was already super useful. But then they also numbered the strings in like the order of which you will string them. And that just saved me so much hassle like during the entire stringing process. So anyway, if you're ever in the market to get your zither restrung, give lenznerstrings.de a look. So that's as far as I got that session. I managed to do 2 full chords and a couple of strings on the 3rd chord. And this is a little video of what it sounded like when I finished with that. And then I took a very long break of a couple of months because reasons. Okay, here we are. So I guess now that all of the backstory around how I got my instrument is out of the way, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the instrument itself, because I think it's fascinating. So this particular instrument is what they call a violin zither. It's called that because the way they've set up the melody strings means that it can be bowed, just with like a violin bow. I thought this was such a clever design. The melody strings are laid out in this tapered way, which means that you can, like I'm demonstrating with my hand here, you can use the bow to hit each string individually with like the strokes of a bow. And then also the strings on the left hand side of the instrument are actually on lower pegs than the ones that are more in the middle, so you can reach over them to be able to play the ones in the middle without hitting any of the strings on the left. I do really want to get a bow for it, but I'm also kind of intimidated, so we'll see if I get one, but you'll definitely see it appear on my channel if I do get one. And then another thing that I think is just really cool about this instrument is that because of the amount of strings it has, and I guess that goes for most instruments that have this many strings, whenever you play a string, any string that you're not currently playing are vibrating along with the string you just played. So it just creates this beautiful, rich, resonant sound. And even if you mute the string that you did play, it will just keep on ringing because all the other strings are vibrating. And I think it's just really nice. So my instrument has a total of 48 strings, 20 melody strings, and 4 sets of 7 per chord, where the lower 5 strings in the chords extends the entire length of the instrument, and the 2 uppermost ones only go about halfway, and that way you can just play a bass chord or you can play it extended. And I very quickly realized that the way to string all of these types of strings are completely different. So I would say the long chord strings were probably the easiest. They have a bridge right before the pegs to tune, which means that I basically just tried to make the string go as low as possible, so all of the tension would go on the bridge, and that way I would have an even tone. The extended notes for the chords were a bit trickier because they don't have a bridge. Basically, the tuning peg is the bridge, and so I had to make sure that the height at which the string set on that peg was about the same height as all the other strings in the chords, because otherwise you could just go over the string while playing it and you wouldn't even touch it. And then the melody strings had an even different system. It was basically a loop that you put around and then over the peg. It had this little slit in the peg where the loop went, so it wouldn't slip up the peg. And then you strung it to the other side. And so all the chord strings are actually tuned at the top of the instrument, and the melody strings are all tuned at the bottom. I just tried to copy the strings that were on there as best as possible. Like, I just really looked at how they had originally strung them, and I tried to copy that as well as I could. But I would say, yeah, when I first started stringing it, it was a lot of just trying to figure out what the best way to do it was. I got pretty decent at it at the end, but this is definitely not the type of project that I've ever done before. So it was nice and challenging, and actually ended up having quite a bit of fun with it, even if my chronic pain was protesting me most of the way through this. So I managed to finish all the chords in this session, and this is the result. This is what it sounded like after I was done with that. Onto the melody strings. 28 down, only 20 more to go. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to take you through the process of me trying to research my particular instrument. I was really curious to get an estimate on the age of it. I know at the beginning of the video I said that I thought that the instrument was like 100 years old. And I wasn't really basing that on much, except that I just thought that the strings looked really crusty. Turns out not 100 years old. It's a bit younger than that, but I just wanted to kind of like take you through what I found out. So the first thing that I did was I looked for violin zithers, but obviously that's gonna bring up so many different instruments by so many different people. I had to really slim down the amount of suggestions I got. So on my instrument in big letters is written Valencia. So that's where we're gonna start off now. So I'm just gonna fill that in. So we already see these look a lot like my instrument. So we're just gonna go over to images and see which one matches. So I found out that there's listings for the same instrument, like or at least an instrument from the same maker as mine, on 2 different sites, KataWiki and I'm not even gonna try and pronounce this. So let's first look at those 2. So the writing on this is slightly different. It actually says Fischer's Valencia, and it also gives a number, a production number. But I'm sure that it is an instrument from the same maker as mine because the inlay is the same. It both says made in Saxony. The name Valencia is the same. Overall look is the same. It's from the same maker. Anyway, so we go to the information and it just says made in the first half of the 20th century. Doesn't really get very specific, but we've got something to go off here. The other one I really liked because it also includes a case and a violin bow. I just thought it was very, very cool to see what this could have looked like complete, like the complete set. So you'll notice that this one doesn't say Fischer's Valencia like the previous ad, but just Valencia like my instrument does as well. So more proof that these are all from the same maker. And it kind of makes me think that this one and my zither were made before the one in the previous ad, because it just seems logical to me that you would at some point realize, oh, maybe it's useful to put a production number on these as well. It makes me think that my zither and this one from the ad were maybe made before the other one, earlier in his career, I guess. And then I thought this was just fascinating, the way that this music is written down. I don't know what that means. I've got no clue. Anyone know of this type of music notation? I'm fascinated. Other than that, the ad just says that it was probably also produced in the first half of the 20th century, just like the other ad. I think they just got their information from each other. But I did just want to quickly go back to the original query and look at this one. I think this one is very fascinating. I can't open it. I can't visit this page because it says it's no longer available, the listing. But if we open the image, okay, so first of all, it's a really low resolution image. But if we look at the instrument, you can see that this card is similar or the same to how it is on my instrument. And then also the little placard that is inside of the sound hole is that same pinkish color. And then if we look at the card itself, it says Valencia, which we know is the name of the instrument, and Joseph Fischer, which is the same name that is on that one ad, Fischer's Valencia. So now we have the full name of the person who made our instrument, and we also know the city they were based out of, which is Brundoba in Saxony. Okay, allow me to go on a little bit of a tangent, because when I was searching for Joseph Fischer in relationship to zithers, I didn't really find any new information. So what I ended up doing is looking up Joseph Fischer and the town that I know he's related to, Brundoba. And when I did that, I found that there was a Joseph Fischer who was active in the 1930s, which is the first half of the 20th century, making sort of pinball machines. And, you know, that's fun. I like looking at old machines. So I just kind of delved into this rabbit hole a little bit. And as I was looking at the different machines that he's made, I found this pamphlet advertising his machine, and it had the name Valencia on it. So needless to say, I kind of lost my mind for a little bit, but that's all we're gonna say on that matter. But anyway, let's get back to what we're actually here for. I found this link, which to me seems like the official registry that Josef Fischer in Bundoba did for his company. And the way it's listed is with Musicware Factory. And I was like, well, this has gotta be him then. So we go to the site, to this page, and we see that he had his company registered between 1939 and 1944. So we've got years. We know now. Perfect. And I was gonna leave it at that, but then I was just looking through some more links and I found this one. Another Josef Fischer in Bundoba. So I open it and it's just this it's just some local newspaper or something. And I'm like, I'm not interested in any of this, so I just searched for his name. And then it says, Josef Fischer in Bundoba belongs to the pioneers in harmonica manufacturing. So that means that there was another guy. Okay, I understand that Josef Fischer is probably just a common name. Okay, I'll give them that. But it does add questions back to this listing if it was the same Josef Fischer. Because if there was another person who was the pioneer in making harmonicas and didn't make zithers. And this article is specifically about how this factory of this Josef Fischer was now being torn down. And this listing is specifically for a music factory. So this makes me think that this listing is for this harmonica maker and not for my zither maker. So I can't trust this date. I can't. So I went back to Google, and lastly I found this. It's a YouTube video, and in the description it says, bear with me, my German isn't great and the sentence structure in this is not easily translatable into English, but the gist of it is you are hearing my mandolinette, presumably or maybe suspected to have been built in the 1920s to 1930s from Josef Fischer in Bundoba by Klingenthal. So then we look up what a mandolinette is. Yeah, I think it's safe to say we found our builder. So this person doesn't provide any sources for the 1920s/1930s. But I'm tired. I want this to be it. So going off of that, my instrument is probably 80 to 90 years old, and I'm happy saying that. Done. Done. 3 years of Fischers from Bundoba later, and we're done. Okay, bye. And as it so happens, I'm also done with the stringing. So I'm gonna do one final tuning of all of these strings, and then I'm gonna show you the end results and probably compare it to that first video I have of it. that's it. I originally wanted the video to end right there, but I wanted to give a little bit of a retrospective. Obviously, there's been quite a long time between me finishing stringing the zither and me uploading this video right now. I had pretty much finished this video in September last year. All I had to do was tune the zither one last time and then make that video you just saw of me demonstrating what it sounds like now. And then my best friend died, and I kind of lost all motivation to do pretty much of anything. So that's been fun. I'm hoping this is kind of like my soft reboot of the channel. I have a couple of videos lined up. Obviously, I uploaded a video last month, and I have a video I am uploading at the same day of this one that is a companion to this video, which is a song on the zither. One of the songs in the show Gentleman Jack, and I really love the show, and I really love the song, and I really love the people who made the song, and I thought it suited the zither, so check that out. It's in the comments below. I also wanted to give, like, now that I have the zither restrung, I've noticed like a few things, so I just wanted to come back to it. First of all, the strings really still don't hold their tuning. I was hoping that when I had all the strings on it and it had settled, it would kind of stick to its tuning better, but it doesn't. And I think it's because when they're tuned, the tension on the tuning pegs kind of like loosens them a bit over time, and so they'll go flat. But when I'm tuning the instrument, by the time I've tuned the last string, the first string is already out of tune again. It's already flat again. And I don't really know what to do about that. I also don't have the time or the resources to properly restore the instrument. So I'm just gonna have to do it with this. I tend to just like tune the entire thing, and then I focus on what does this song need, and I make sure that the strings that I am actively using are the ones that are in tune, and it tends to sort of work. The other thing you might have noticed is this huge crack. I know, it's very upsetting. I have to admit, it is my fault. I had it in a place in my house where the sun would hit it in the afternoon. And the same thing happened with my hurdy-gurdy, and that also got a crack. As soon as I found out, I pretty much rearranged my whole fucking house so that my instruments wouldn't be in the sun anymore, but the damage was already done. And it's just been getting worse and worse ever since. It's really bad now, and I'm very worried about it. For any zither people watching this, I'm sorry. And also, how dangerous is this? Can I still... I mean... How much am I ruining the instrument is what I'm asking. Anyone else still watching, thank you so much for making it this far. I know it's a pretty long video and it's not really the type of content I usually make, but I thought it was fun to take you along for the whole ride of me both restringing and also finding out about this instrument itself. And yep, bye.